Hello to everyone. My name is Anu. I'll be hosting this seminar today, or this webinar. This is already the eighth webinar in Go Digital Skills program so far. And we have been discussing digital marketing, and we have been discussing data management and cybersecurity. And now, today, we are here with Binni, who will be talking about AI, a very hot topic now in tourism industry and also in other industries. And he will lead us today to some of the basics of AI and how to use it in tourism. And then next week already we have a follow-up webinar to this one. But Binni, I will let you introduce yourself some more, and the floor is yours. So go ahead.
Thank you very much. So I will just start by sharing my screen. So I have a presentation where I talk about myself and then AI. So is this okay now? So
yes.
Okay, that's good. So yes, my name is, as you can see, Brynjólfur Borgar, but my nickname is Binni Borgar, so we can just use that. And I'm going to talk about advances in AI, and in particular the use of this technology, AI and automation, in tourism. So let me see. So this is the first session where we will cover the basics, as we say. I'm going to try to answer these two questions, like what is this technology and why does it matter? Maybe like the aim is perhaps to understand like where we are heading and where we are coming from. By understanding where we are coming from, we may understand where we are heading. And in the second session, I'm gonna bring it closer to the real world and to the business of tourism. But already in this first session, you will most probably understand some of the applications that are possible in tourism. And so let's just get into it. Just a little bit about me. So I am based in Reykjavik, Iceland. Currently, I'm actually in Berlin. You can maybe see them in the background. This is a hotel room I'm staying in. I'm doing a seminar myself in the next 4 days here in Berlin. So that's quite exciting. So I hope my connection is okay. But a little bit about me. I have a background in psychology and statistics. So this was my way into AI. They are quite related, psychology and AI. Many of the researchers in AI, they come from the field of psychology. And statistics is all about, of course, analyzing data. So it is a good combination, I think. And I've been active in this business for over 25 years now, getting older. And I have experience from different sectors, as you can see. And in 2016, I founded DataLab, which is a data innovation company. We've been around since 2016, yes. So our role is to combine our customers' digital data and advanced data technology, which is, this is one way to look at it. It's comprised of 3 fields: data engineering, AI data science, and then visualization. So people who are involved in AI, or teams, they have skills in these 3 fields. It's all about the flow of data, as we will talk about today and next week. And it's about AI, data science, so that's algorithms. We will talk a little bit about that, and of course, visualization and storytelling. We will talk less about that. But to the subject matter, the technology that the world is getting used to, there has been a great leap forward in AI. And this is mainly generative AI or Gen AI that we are thinking about or talking about. This is where the leap forward has been. What is Gen AI, you may ask? And just for your interest, we call it spunagreind or spinning intelligence, maybe in Icelandic, spunagreind. So it's like machine generated content. It's yeah, so it's we are playing with words here, but generative AI is the word in English. You may have other words, different words in your own languages, but we can talk about that later. So what is it? At least now in 2024, for us, like us, just citizens and consumers, this is one way to describe this technology. It is compressing all knowledge on the internet into accessible and personalized nuggets. You ask about almost anything and get the answer right away. So this is just what's out there today. And we have tried, most of you have probably tried this technology. For example, a basic question into ChatGPT. I have half a day to spend in Warsaw, Poland. I want to take a route around the city, and I have some requirements. I want to stop at the best ice cream shop, etc. So right away, ChatGPT gives me a nice cycling route, which saves me a lot of time. Instead of Googling, I can just ask ChatGPT, or I can ask for a recipe for Hollandaise sauce with a special spicy ingredient I asked it about. So it's a custom-made recipe just for me. I can also use Gemini from Google, and I encourage you in general to just try out this technology if you haven't already, and try out different services. So ChatGPT is one service, Gemini is another service. So here I'm planning a road trip in the Faroese Islands. And of course, Gemini knows every road there is, because it is quite related to Google Maps. It knows what Google Maps knows. And so I ask it about like a plan for this road trip. I don't know anything about the Faroese Islands, so let me see what it does. Yes, it gives me an example, like a road trip, and I can also get it on the map, so that's quite convenient. So right away, I have a 1-day road trip, and I can ask further questions like how long does it take? And of course, Gemini knows to the minute, down to the minute, how long this will take, like we can get from Google Maps. So very convenient. It is also like it all knows so much. Like I was watching like an obscure TV show on a streaming platform, and I'm interested. I don't know whether I recommend this TV show, but I was intrigued, so I wanted to have a chat about it. What did the critics say? So instead of Googling, I just ask my service, my Gen AI service. I can also chat about like other topics, like I was the other day, I was chatting about Easter. I'm thinking of its origins beyond Christianity. What do we know? And it was quite interesting. It was talking about the term Easter, where it comes from. There's this goddess, Ostara, which is older than Christianity. And I wanted to see an image of Ostara. So this is like one way to use this service. You can like visualize something, and you ask ChatGPT to do it in this instance. Or you can have a chat about art. Here I had a picture of this piece of art, I think it's hanging actually here in Berlin, this piece of art. So I just uploaded the picture I took, and it is telling me a little bit about this piece of art. Quite interesting. Or I uploaded a picture of a news article in Icelandic, and I asked it to like summarize in English what it says. Quite interesting, and then translate into German. So if I had like German collaborators, I could easily tell them what's happening in the AI field in Iceland, for example. So just a few examples about the basic uses of this technology, and all of us can use it like this right now. Also at work, of course, if we are allowed to. But let's talk about a little bit about like the technology, like what's happening behind the scenes. I'm not gonna dig deep into it, but I will talk a little bit about it. So AI, what is it? This is one way to define AI. We have computer systems which simulate human intelligence. They learn, think, and then take action. So this is, it's no wonder that people that study human intelligence, like people who are into psychology, it's no wonder that they ended up in AI, because they were trying to simulate how we think, to learn how we think. And by doing that, they actually created the field of AI and these systems that we have today. So what is required for these systems to operate? Well, we need digital data, and a lot of it. We use structured data. That is the data that we know quite well. It's the numeric data in databases, and also unstructured data like images and text. And there is a lot of that online, of course. And that it's the unstructured data that is like behind the Gen AI application that I was showing you before. Loads of text and images. So we also need algorithms. We have many different types of algorithms, and we need computing power. These algorithms, we use them to create models like Gen AI models, and that requires a lot of computing power. And generative AI is just a type of algorithm, and it's called transformers. So we have AI algorithms, we have many of them, and transformers are one of them. And this is where most of the action and the interest has been in the past few months, but there are many different types of algorithms. But that I will not talk about now, because we are I think focusing now on generative AI. It's so big and there is so much opportunity there. So it's I have here, like, I talked to ChatGPT about these algorithms, and this is actually a video. I wanted it to read it to you, but we actually can't hear the sound of it. So, but in layman terms, how the algorithm works. Imagine you are teaching someone to speak Icelandic. At first, you feed them heaps of conversations, like news, article, books, jokes, and even some song lyrics. They listen and learn how different words fit together and what phrases are likely to come next based on the context. That's basically what GPT, generative pre-trained transformer, does, but with a massive amount of text from the internet. It studies patterns and structures in the language, learning how over time to predict the next word in a sentence. So it's all about predicting the next word in a sentence, much like a supercharged version of your phone's autocorrect. When you ask it a question, it recalls all that training to generate a reply that sounds pretty convincing. So this is like, you can read it also later. This is recorded, etc. And I just wanted to highlight here what the transformer in GPT means. And this is probably the most technical thing I will have in this seminar, is just this sentence. The transformer in GPT stands for a specific type of neural network. So that's an algorithm that's really good at handling sequences of data, like sentences in a language. Unlike earlier models that processed words one at a time, transformers can look at whole sentences all at once. This allows them to understand context much better. And there was a famous paper that appeared in 2017, which is called "Attention is All You Need." So there was a breakthrough in algorithms where we could like control the attention span of algorithms that were reading text that are behind the breakthroughs. That's all there is, and that's all you need to like understand. So Gen AI is all about algorithms. That's where like the innovation is coming from mainly. And OpenAI and their Gen AI models have been most prominent in the past few months for a good reason. The company was founded in 2015, and their aim is to create like artificial general intelligence, which is like intelligence that is comparable to human intelligence. So maybe they will reach this goal at some point, but they haven't, today. But they have released their models, their Gen AI models, and each version of these models, like GPT-1, GPT-2, represents a significant step up in the ability to understand and generate human-like text, and also images. You have to tweak it a little bit, and then you can use it to generate images. So we have like, they released these models, GPT-1, 2, 3, but it wasn't until the summer of 2022 that we, the general public, started to notice, because that's when they released the text-to-image services online. So we could go online, we could go to the homepage of Dolly, and we could write in text and get images based on that text. And it was like it got a lot of attention. And Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, is down there in that image. And in November 22, they released ChatGPT, which is a text-to-text service. So we write in text and get that text reply back. And at that point, the whole world noticed. And the main reason is probably that it was the experience was like we were talking to a human, a very clever human person, but it was AI. So it was like a remarkable moment. And like during 2023, we were just like trying to figure out like what this means really, like what is, what do we have here? What can we do with this technology? And in 24 and onwards, we are getting down to business, trying to use it to create value. So that's what next we will be talking about next week. They released GPT-4. It is called Turbo now. It's even more powerful, and the world is very excited. For example, Bill Gates, who sees an opportunity here to take a lot of money from Google. So will this like disrupt the search business model at Google? We don't know yet, but maybe. So the world is excited, and there's a lot of money at stake. But GPT and OpenAI, they are not alone in this space. They have a lot of competition coming from like the other big American players like Google with their Gemini service and model, and Meta, which is owns Facebook. But we also have a European player called Mistral AI. It's a French company. We have smaller American players, Inflection and Anthropic. And if Sam Altman was the most prominent person in 22, 23, I think this French gentleman, Jan LeCun, is probably becoming the most prominent. He is head of AI at Meta. And if you're interested in this technology, you could check him out, Jan LeCun, and what he has to say. He is really like becoming the guiding light, and like talking about where we are heading, etc. It's really interesting to hear him talk. So that was, we have talked about algorithms, and a little bit about data, and just one slide about the computing power that is needed to train these models. There is a company, it's in the business of software and processing units, creating computing power. It's called NVIDIA, and they have built the engine of the new industrial revolution, they say. So most of the models that we are using today, like ChatGPT and Gemini, at least ChatGPT, I don't know about Gemini, it is like trained using the Hopper CPU processing unit. And NVIDIA just released Blackwell, which is the new processing unit. And it is, the only thing we need to understand here is that the computing power is growing faster than ever before. And this computing power will support a new type of software powered by Gen AI. So this is, you can see Hopper in 2022. It has some like capability, it's 4,000 something, but Blackwell has 20,000 something. So it's growing so fast. And we know now that like models will grow and progress will continue. We're not going to stop now. The models and the services will become more powerful. And just to highlight how fast this happens, I prepared this slide. So the capability of the models, like the GPT models from OpenAI, it has grown a lot, and we find it difficult to understand properly how fast they are growing. They are growing like exponentially. And it is easier to understand if we put it on a scale that we are familiar with. So imagine if the capability of GPT-1 released in 2018 is like the first mass-produced car, Ford Model T. And the second model in 2019 would be like a good 80s Volvo, maybe. It's a much better car. In 2020, we had GPT-3, and it's like the most modern e-car you can get. And we already have the car of the future, whatever it will look like. So in just 5 years, we went from through progression or a growth in capability that took us maybe 125, 150 years even for the car. So, and we are just starting. So imagine the capabilities that will become available later this year when GPT-5 comes out, and then GPT-6, etc. So this is exponential growth and capability for you. So this is maybe me trying to answer the question, like in the previous slides, I was trying to answer the question, like, what is this technology? But now we are coming to the second question, like, so what? And we are probably more than halfway through. So what? Why does it matter? Like, why does this progress matter? Why does this technology change the game? Well, we have now technology that has mastered language, and this appears to us, and it's available to us as digital intelligence that lives in the cloud. It has read the whole internet. It is very accessible, as I've already said, and we prompt it with instructions in our own language, and we get back text, as you have seen, code, like computer code, images, sounds, which pass the standards that we set for ourselves. And it probably goes beyond. It is performing in these areas above the level we can perform at, most of us. So it's very good. And it is, we can call it general purpose technology, like electricity, like steam power, like the computer. It can do many things for us. So this is like where we are now. And if you think about like, and then we have some progress coming in the coming years. So like, what will it be able to do in the next coming years? It's just impossible to answer, but we are heading there. And as a result of having AI that has mastered language, we are starting to delegate more tasks to computers. Tasks that even required considerable thought, like putting together a road trip in the Faroe Islands, for example. And when we have proper control of this new technology, and we are working on it, both like the big players like OpenAI or Google, and also like smaller players like DataLab, it will make computers more useful. We will entrust them with more tasks. So like every sector, every person that works in a computer will ask the computer to do more tasks. And this applies to people working in tourism. So this is, I have a short-term prediction here. Just 2 years, we will have larger models like GPT-4, no 5. We will have smaller models. We will have better training data and more specialization. We will have smaller models, maybe trained on text and information from tourism. So we will have specialized language models just for tourism, for example. And this intelligence, this digital intelligence, will become better as a result of these models. It will become cheaper as a result of great competition in the space, very accessible in software, doing more things for us. That is a fact. And let's just go into more examples. I was listening to this, I listen a lot to jazz, and I was listening to this jazz pianist called Ahmad Jamal, and he was active for a very long time. And I was just learning about him a few months ago. So I had a chat with ChatGPT about him. So I asked it, like, instead of Googling, to tell me about this jazz pianist. And more questions like, what are his main songs and albums? So I get a list of these. Instead of going through like blog posts about him, I just ask ChatGPT to do it, and it will delivers me the results. And then I asked, like, can you recommend any videos on YouTube with him? So instead of me going to YouTube to look for the videos, ChatGPT actually did it for me and then gave me the links. So it has like 4 songs there or 4 videos, and I can follow the links. And then I ask a more advanced question, like, where can I buy his albums on vinyl and have them sent to Iceland? And when I asked this question, I just put enter, and then I stood up and I got myself a cup of tea or something. And when I came back, it had this list of online stores that sell used vinyl, and they sent to Iceland. So that's really convenient and time-saving for me. Imagine if you are doing something similar at work. It's not like your hobbies or your interests you are working on. You are doing something for work, like doing market research or something like that. So it is very powerful. And what we will, what you saw here, it was the use case text to text. But what is coming, and is already here, is like we can put in more diverse instructions or prompts and get more diverse answers. So text to image is quite interesting, or image to text. So here, I don't know if you noticed this type of sweetbread. I took a picture of it and uploaded it and asked it for the recipe. So here I have, just from this image, I have a recipe for that thing called chocolate dipped Viennese whirl. Maybe I will find it here in Berlin. That would be nice, because it is not widely available in Iceland, and I like it a lot. So, and then I can go from, like the previous case where image was image to text, but here is text to image. I ask it to generate an image of a 49-year-old AI consultant on a sunny afternoon in Reykjavik, eating that sweet bread. So here it is. And so this is in the field, they call it multimodal, when you like interact with these services using different types of like prompts in image, like image prompts or text or code prompts, etc., numbers. And so we also have text to video, as I talked about before, but it was taken to a completely new level the other day when OpenAI released Sora, S-O-R-A. So based on these text prompts, we have really good videos. So if you want to see more examples, you can go on YouTube and check it out. But like this one, it's really realistic, but no real puppies were involved in making this video. So I think it's a difficult maybe question for tourism, for example. If the tourism industry starts to use this technology to generate realistic images to sell its services, then it is maybe an ethical question. Are you telling the truth? Something like that. But I put it here as an example of how fast this technology is evolving. It is not available to the general public, this technology. At the moment, it's being tested. Apparently, they are not eager to make it available in an election year in the United States. So so that's the reason. But if I was working in tourism, I would probably, and I was selling a product like a destination, I would probably be interested in this technology. So in all these examples I have shown you, it's like the written word is very prominent. And I find this very intriguing about this technology. It depends on the user's ability to think clearly and choose words carefully. So the better your prompt, your instructions, the better your output. It is quite obvious. And the technology is rewarding such behavior from the user. So and you have perhaps experienced this yourselves, like when you're using this type technology, the more the knowledge you have about the subject you are asking about, the better the replies. And so maybe this is just like a general comment on this technology. So we can create now like whole new worlds just based on words. And we all know that like authors and film directors, etc., they've been able to do this for years, but now like everyone is like able to let their creativity like blossom with the help of AI. And still talking about like why this technology matters, what is coming up, and this is really relevant for the tourism industry. I call it text to action. So it's like if I could ask ChatGPT to make me that sweetbread Vienna's world sandwich. We are not there yet, but it's getting closer. This is a video. Maybe it's not working. Let me see. Let me see. Yes. So this is a short video. Yeah, I know you can't get the sound, but it is asking that robot to make a cup of coffee. So this was not the first time it did it. It made like a lot of mistakes, but this is like text to action in a very like real way. They have like robots now that can maneuver things, and they have like the GPT-4 language abilities. So a human can now ask a robot or give it instructions, and the robot will do what it was told to do. So this is like, you know, Are we so far away from this? I'm not so sure, but a more like what is coming sooner is like text to action in the digital world. So as I was talking about this jazz pianist and vinyl records, you know, soon, probably later this year or next year, we will have agents that can do such things for us. Like, hey, ChatGPT, if you find this record by this artist and it costs less than $30, then you can buy it and have it sent to my address. So they will probably offer this service, and I can just give it instructions and also my credit card number. Or like if I get a list of songs by some artist, I can say, hey, create a playlist on Spotify with his 10 most critically acclaimed tracks. So this is an example of text to action, and this, I believe, will be it's like the word for it is AI agents, and they will be at your service coming soon, probably like in the next 3 to 18 months, also in tourism, to do stuff for us in the digital space. And we will talk about that next week, how these agents could be of use in tourism. So like coming to a close here in this part of the seminar, the first part, of course, we are all asking this question, like how can we use this technology at work in tourism? It's a now what question. And there are opportunities, like loads of them, and there are also challenges. And I will also talk about those next week. But just to give you an example of what's coming up, and we are still talking like in general terms. So the impact of this technology is already being felt, and you feel it already probably. And it's that the greatest impact is now on tasks that are solved in computers involving text, numbers, and images, or they are solved in a browser. Let's say like searching for something, gathering information, and then acting upon this information. This technology acts as a turbocharger for experts and office workers. It's our assistant. Tasks that once required hours or days to complete can now be accomplished in minutes. Like many of you have probably used this technology to summarize maybe a 100-page report about something that relates to our work. Just, you can upload this report to ChatGPT and say, hey, read this for me and give me a 5-page summary. So that's like what once took hours now takes maybe 15 minutes or something. And it's my strong belief that those who adopt this technology, they will gradually replace those who don't. And what will it change? Like, as I have said before, we give computers commands in our own language. We tell them what to do, and this is a real a revolution if you think about it. Like up until now, we have had to give computers commands by programming them using computer code, or we have used software with buttons, etc. But now we can just give them commands like, hey, can you check out these 5 competitors, read their websites, and tell me what they are offering, stuff like that. The commands, they come from us. We do the thinking, and the computer does things for us. But sometimes it feels like the computer does a little bit of thinking. So that's quite intriguing. Like it is like maybe asking us if we should if it should do this or that, or should it change its objective because it learned something. So it is quite interesting. It's a companion or like a collaborator maybe. We delegate, as I said, more tasks to computers, They are well-informed systems that learn and operate at high speed. They actually learn and operate at the speed of a computer, which is always getting faster, as I told you before. Remember Hopper and Blackwell? So Blackwell is very fast and considerably faster than a human. So that's interesting. And these agents, they are emerging. Automation will soar to new levels, and the allure of this technology becomes irresistible. So it will become irresistible. And I believe that for us working for our institutions or companies, I think this technology will have like a proper impact, and it will be made available to employees. Like of course we are using it as consumers, like like ChatGPT, etc. But I think like we will see a lot of innovation and like solutions being offered to employees, so internal solutions, and then these solutions will gradually be like offered to customers. So it will probably happen in this order. So this year and next, we will most probably be adding, or like we will have access to an expert in my operations, whatever it is, which can solve tasks for me. So that's what's coming in tourism and elsewhere, for certain tasks in tourism, I would say. And it will solve tasks for me at the speed of a computer. And this is what I will talk about in the next session. It is next week, Tuesday, not Monday, Tuesday. So that's all from me for now, but we may have perhaps room for a few questions if you have them. Or I don't know, Anu, if people have questions, they can also send them online, and we can maybe go through them at the beginning next week. If
yes.
Yeah.
Yes, either way is good, because we have, as said, we have a follow-up next week. Thank you very much, Penny, for this presentation. And now if you have questions, we have some time to take them. There might be some in the chat. Let's see.
Yes. So
no, there is a thank you.
Yes.
And well, I always have questions, but there is also a question from Sari that says there is lots of utopistic and also dystopic ideas about AI, and as it is a new thing, any thought about this utopia, dystopia, reflections about AI? Where is it going?
Yes, I think like if you are only following this topic through the mainstream media, you are probably seeing more dystopic things. It is like we are very like fond of dystopic news. We click them and we read them, and so we are probably overstating the bad things at the moment and understating maybe the positive things. So I think like for the dystopic part, we should probably divide by two, and there are of course risks, but it's probably not gonna take over and like make us slaves. It's like impossible, but you know, never say impossible. But I think we should have a balanced view. This technology can do many things for us. It will probably save lives at some point, because We will be able to use it to create new drugs and do personalized medicine, and it will also like save us a lot of time, save us from maybe boring routine tasks in computers. Like it's like some tasks that we do in computers. It's like digging a hole with a shovel, but we just do it in a computer. And so AI will be great at doing these things for us, like gathering data and summarizing text, etc. Loads of text is very boring. We can't read it because it's so boring. But if we have a computer that can do it, summarize it for us, read it, and then give us the highlights, what a nice thing to have. But there is also like we need to be very careful about where we are taking this technology so that we will have to minimize risks. That's what we have to do. And I think the technology industry learned a lot from the mistakes from the social media years, like 2010 to 2020. So we are trying to be careful now. And the main players are trying to be, but there is like the risks are there. And like will it disrupt the job market? We have to be careful there. So will we what like how can we like manage this? So will it happen so quickly that many people will lose their jobs and they will like rise up? And you know we don't know. So
yes, there was a related question in chat from Jan, which was actually also my question. Starting with words, what impact could be foreseen for training new employees? A large focus in writing the right prompts, or what? So that might be one of specialties, because as you said, you have to really consider how to write the right prompt.
yeah,
And I think that could be also, like John, I think that could be one of the skills that we
yeah,
teach for new employees.
yeah. I think this technology should with time it will change how the education system prepares people for the job market. So I think we will put less emphasis on like for example the teaching how to program computers, and more emphasis on like how to think critically, how to be creative, how to relate with other people. And I think when we interact with this technology, it is we do a better job. It will do more for us if we have a wide like knowledge. We know like a lot about things. Like the generalists, they are being rewarded, and those who can like put their thoughts into words and then interact with this technology. I think this is a skill that will become like a sought after skill and in demand. And so it's like the more human skills, if you like, that may become more prominent and rewarded, which is very interesting. Like, yeah, so
is.
like sometimes like we have been rewarding people who can act as almost like computers, if you know what I mean, like people who are like very organized and good at calculating and predicting and like talking to computers using strange programming languages. This is like maybe not what will be most rewarded in the future, but we will still need those skills. But like all the other human skills, like the skills that you learn when you learn philosophy or languages or social sciences, etc. So
Okay.
yeah.
Now I have only one final question, and this is a very difficult one.
Okay.
You said that there is money at stake. So if you think about a tourism company, for example, how aware should we be concerning the ownership and this kind of money related questions in AI and all, as you said, but there will be lots of different tools and apps and whatnot, and how much we should be concerned about who owns the app and where does the money go.
Yes, I think this is really important. So they often say that the one who owns the data, he owns the customer. So I believe that there is this is why the platform companies are becoming so valuable, because they own the data. I think in your industry you have platform companies who are getting very powerful, and I think what has happened now in the tourism industry, for example, in Iceland, is that companies that have been curating their own text data. So they have a lot of text data describing their services, their packages, etc. Even like travel plans, etc. Those companies now own this data. They've been collecting it for years and years, and it has now become valuable because you can use it as a basis for AI solutions created just for you. So I think be very careful about this data because you, for example, don't just put it out in the open, all of it, because there may be AI agents working on behalf of your competitors that might want to read this data and use it to create something, for example. So this is the politics of data, and the dynamics in this field are changing fast. So you have to look out for interests. So at least look after your textual data, and you should most probably, if you're not collecting and storing your own customer data, you should have plans to do it. You can always share them, but you should also own them, I think. So maybe it's difficult to step out of current relationships. It's they are also providing value, the platform companies, but it's it's a difficult one. But data is so important. It has never been more important.
Well, those are very good closing words, I think. And just to remind to all the listeners that we will be back with Binny next week on Tuesday, and you can register to the webinar in Tourbit website. So that will be the last webinar of our series. So that will be the ground jewel. So we'll hear more about AI. Thank you very much, everyone, especially Binny, for you and for all the listeners. And we'll be back next week. Thank you.